Okay, thank you for that. And hello and welcome to everyone. This is our concluding session for the Transforming Problems module of Discovering Buddhism. So it was meant to be a practice session where we're doing the ever-flowing nectar of bodhicitta. But in our last session, we also had a few of the points from the 7-point mind training that were left over. So I had wanted to do that as well. That being said, I think, I kind of think, especially because you have, me and Lexok, who are doing extensive studies, we're the ones who teach you. Maybe our bias is more of the kind of explanation. And so I thought, in our session today, we could start with a practice. And then if there is time left over, we can go through the points remaining on the 7-point mind training. Because in any case, it's there in the commentary is there in Liberation in the Palm of Your Hand. And it's not that difficult to understand. What do you think? Yeah, let's practice first, okay? So, I have this version. It's from 2016. I'm not sure if there's a more updated version, but in any case, we can use this. Or Mary Ellen, do you have a more updated version? I thought I had one, but
I just put a version in the chat.
Okay.
This that I
I wasn't here when you put it in.
Oh, okay. I can do it again.
Maybe we resend it, and well, let's use that one, because I do think there is a little difference. While you're doing that, I'll explain how.
Can you see it?
Yeah. Oops.
This is 2020.
Okay.
Is the version you're using from the retreat prayer book, or?
No, it's a standalone version.
This one's a standalone too.
Yeah. Hold on, it's now. Okay.
You're still screen sharing the other one.
Oh yeah. Okay. Right. Well, this one at least has a different cover. So let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay. So I think I already mentioned when we say nectar, dutsi in Tibetan. So has du is the Mara or the demon, and nectar is what it's like the elixir. So it has just like the elixir supposedly can turn iron into gold. Similarly, the nectar here, the tsi, is to transform the demon, or in this case, talk about annihilating, right? So since the self-cherishing mind is the obstacle to developing bodhicitta, then that is the primary mind training that is done in the Mahayana context. In any case, this practice was compiled by our precious Guru Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So it's based on the 8 verses of thought transformation, and it's combines it with meditation on Avalokiteshvara and recitation of the Om Mani Padme Hum mantra. So anyway, so here we have the 3 divisions: preparation, actual practice, and conclusion. In the preparation, so we sit comfortably. And then generate a particularly virtuous motivation. So in brief, we're doing this practice for the benefit of all sentient beings, and in particular, so we can achieve enlightenment, so we can be of utmost benefit to them. And then especially realizing or understanding that without bodhicitta, then there is no enlightenment. So we're especially going to do this practice so we can generate the mind of bodhicitta. Then do a glance meditation on Lamrim teaching from beginning, correctly following the virtuous friend up to the end, or with heartfelt feeling, contemplate as follows. So there, a glance meditation on Lamrim can be foundation of all good qualities, 3 principles of the path, any one of those short Lamrim prayers. But here is a special one that is included in this text. So here, let's meditate together on this as I read it out. Try to reflect deep in the mind about these points. From beginningless rebirths up till now, I have experienced the general sufferings of samsara and the particular sufferings of the lower realms numberless times. There is no suffering that I have never experienced. When I think deeply about all of this, I feel terribly upset and weep uncontrollably. Therefore, I must no longer allow myself to come under the control of the disturbing, undisturbed thoughts, which are true causes that bring the result of true suffering. As long as I happily continue to follow the disturbing, unsubdued minds of the wrong concepts with neither fear nor doubt, there is no difference between me and a mindless, crazy person. If I continue to follow these wrong concepts, I will definitely have to experience the sufferings of samsara endlessly in future lives. When I think about this from the depths of my heart, and not just reciting the words, I am unable to eat by day or sleep by night, and it makes me vomit. It also breaks my heart. However, now I have received the inner condition, a perfect human body, endowed with 8 freedoms and 10 richnesses, which gives me the ability to achieve all happiness and success. I have also met the outer conditions, a holy Mahayana virtuous friend who is extremely difficult to find, but can grant the state of omniscience in 1 second, and the teachings of the Buddha, the supreme medicine that dispels all the suffering of transmigratory beings without exception. If I continue to seek mere temporary happiness for myself and my own liberation from the bondage of the disturbing, unsubdued thoughts and karma, what difference is there between me and a foolish, dumb animal? Such an attitude would be extremely upsetting from both sides. From my own side, how shameless, and from the side of others, how very ungenerous, how selfish and cruel. How dare I cherish myself and renounce others? Aren't other sinning beings the precious ones from whom I receive all happiness and success? It is, therefore, not enough to merely ensure that I will not be reborn in the suffering lower realms, nor is it enough to simply seek my own freedom from samsara. All sinning beings have been my mother. There is not a single one who has not been. Moreover, each one has been my mother numberless times, and each time has been just as kind to me as my present mother. At this very moment, not only are these kind mother sinning beings experiencing great suffering, but they are also running constantly to create the causes for more. There is not even a second when they experience ultimate happiness. If a mother's child is not alleviated, if a mother's suffering is not alleviated by her own child, who else will do it? Even though it is up to me alone to bear the burden of eradicating the suffering of all mother sentient beings, at the moment, I'm incapable of relieving the suffering of even one sentient being. Yet, if I achieve the holy body of a Buddha, just one ray of its light would ripen the minds of countless sentient beings, leading them to this perfect, blissful state of peace. Therefore, to free all mother sentient beings from suffering and lead them to the peerless happiness of enlightenment, I must attain Buddhahood. This is not without causes and conditions. Its principal cause is the two bodhicittas. Therefore, I am going to practice the profound oral teaching on transforming the mind into bodhicitta. So now we visualize at the level of our foreheads at a distance of a body's length in front of you, your own root guru manifesting as and inseparable from thousand-armed Chenrezig, the great compassionate one, standing on a moon disk on top of a lotus. So also at the beginning, we can visualize all sentient beings are in the space around us, and bear in mind that, we can think that we're leading them in the practice. So then we take refuge and generate bodhicitta. So again, not just the words, but, according to our motivation, we are wanting to achieve enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. And therefore, we must rely on the three jewels and follow the practices taught by the Buddha so that we can achieve enlightenment for the benefit of sentient beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by my merits of generosity and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by my merits of generosity and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. I take refuge until I am enlightened in the Buddha, Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly by my merits of generosity and so forth. May I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. So one thing here, This is going to change again. Here, Soknam Ki, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, has been for some years now saying, so the original one is Sunam Ki. Sunam is merit, but Sok is a collection. And we have the collection of merit and the collection of wisdom. So His Holiness was saying, just so we can, when we recite this, we remind ourselves that actually all the 6 perfections are needed. So the method and the wisdom side. So then this has been changed, Soknam Ki. So this should be either by my practice of generosity and so forth, or the more literal translation, the collection. So then the 7-limb prayer. I prostrate to the holy body of the Supreme Arya, Great Compassionate One. So again, since we're visualizing all sentient beings in the space around us, we can think that they're also prostrating along with us. We have the physical prostration, and so we can imagine countless bodies of ourselves prostrating. There's the verbal prostration of, reciting the words, reciting praises to Avalokiteshvara and so forth. And then the mental prostration of recalling the qualities of Guru Avalokiteshvara and aspiring to attain those same qualities within ourselves. I present clouds of every type of offering, both actually arranged and mentally emanated. So here, all the offerings you have set out at your respective homes, all those at Kopan, all the centers, all the various other students' homes. So those are the actually arranged offerings. And then mentally emanated, just imagining the whole universe filled with these offerings, various wish-fulfilling jewels, lights, flowers, perfume, food. I confess all my negative actions and downfalls collected from beginningless time. So important to, whether you've done it in this life or not, think that from beginningless time, we have done all sorts of unskillful actions that have harmed others, that have harmed ourselves, that have gone against the 3 jewels, gone against our Guru's advice. We've broken all kinds of vows, the 3 types of vows. We've created negative actions in relation to particularly strong objects in the field of merit, like our parents, like our teachers. So now seeing that these negative karmas, as long as they remain in our mind stream unpurified, they can become the cause for us to be reborn in lower realms. And even in this life can cause suffering, like illness, like experiencing problems. And more importantly, these negative karmas also prevent us from achieving realizations on the path. So now seeing the negative actions as negative and seeing the the drawbacks, the faults. Now we openly confess these negativities and commit ourselves to, not engage in such destructive behavior again in the future, even if it's just for 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute. I rejoice in the virtues of ordinary beings and Aryas. So this, even when you don't have much time and you do this 7-limb prayer, you should especially pause to meditate on the limb of rejoicing, even if you can't do in an extensive way the other 6 limbs. This is kind of the heart practice and advice of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So here, recalling that virtue is the cause of happiness and success, all the way up to complete enlightenment. Then, our main practice until we're enlightened is to continue to accumulate merit. This is what we were saying, the collections of merit and transcendental wisdom. Those are the causes of the attainment of the Rupakaya, the form body of the Buddha, and the Dharmakaya, the omniscient mind of Buddha. So since we want the goal of enlightenment, we need to accumulate the causes, which is merit. So all the practice that we've done thus far, thinking about it, then we should be very happy. This is the essence of rejoicing. Happiness when we think about the virtue that we've done or the virtue that others have done. So you can be very granular when you think about your own practice. So, even just thinking about the 6 perfections, all the virtue that we've accumulated through our practice of generosity. All of our virtue from maintaining pure ethical discipline, from practicing patience, not getting angry, our enthusiastic perseverance, all the virtue from our meditation practice, and all the virtue from our practice of wisdom, even reading the Heart Sutra, studying about emptiness, meditating on emptiness. So think how wonderful, how precious that we were able to engage in these kinds of practices, these kinds of virtues. Then we can think about and rejoice in others' virtues. So the ordinary beings, those without realization of emptiness, nonetheless, still so much good being done by beings in this world, in other worlds throughout time. And then thinking in particular of all the bodhisattvas, all their virtue, bodhisattvas who have the uncontrived mind of bodhicitta. Therefore, all of their actions completely dedicated to the utmost benefit of sentient beings. They have completely renounced the self-cherishing mind and only work for others' well-being. Therefore, all of their actions become so extremely powerful. So think how wonderful it is that there's, not just one, but countless bodhisattvas who are practicing so tirelessly for sentient beings, trying to progress along the path to enlightenment. So again, one way one can do this is just to recite kind of mentally like a mantra, how wonderful, how precious, how wonderful, how precious, and really absorb the mind in the joy, thinking of others practicing and creating virtue. And then particularly thinking of the Arya Bodhisattvas. So not only have the mind of bodhicitta, but combining that with a direct realization of emptiness. And therefore are able, with this mind directly realizing emptiness, to abandon the obscurations to omniscience. And then we can also rejoice in the virtue of the Buddhas. So countless Buddhas in the past, countless Buddhas in the present have completed the vast accumulations of merit and transcendental wisdom, and thus attain the state of complete enlightenment, whereby they are able to spontaneously manifest countless forms and countless world systems to whatever, form, in whatever form, will benefit sentient beings. So you can rejoice in all these, the merits of the Buddhas. You can also rejoice in all of their good qualities. And you can also rejoice in their inconceivable activities to benefit sentient beings. Just thinking how wonderful it is. So next limb. Please remain until the end of cyclic existence. And turn the wheel of Dharma for transmigratory beings. I dedicate my own and others' virtues to great enlightenment. So the mandala offering. Remember, the mandala offering is the whole universe visualized as a Buddha land. O saji pe gyu jo shi me to cha ri ra ling ji ni de gen pa di Sangye Shindu Mikde Uai Joku Nanda Shila Chivayo. Please bless us that the lives of the glorious gurus be long, that all beings equaling the extent of space be happy, that I and others without exception collect merits and purify obscurations, and that we quickly achieve Buddhahood. Precious Guru, please grant me all the realizations of the path, from correctly following the virtuous friend up to the completion of the training, the unified state of Vajradhara. Please bless my mind to become Dharma, Dharma to become the path, and the path to be without obstacles, that I may cease all wrong concepts and immediately generate the two precious bodhicittas. Idam Guru Rana Mandala Kam Niratayami. So I think that Guru Chenrezig is extremely pleased by my request, and together with the moon disk and lotus come to the crown of my head. So you should visualize Avalokiteshvara or Chenrezig facing the same direction as you. So here, the actual practice with each of the 8 verses, visualize that from the seed syllable free at Chenrezig's heart, much blissful white nectar streams down into the crown of your head. It fills your whole body, purifying all your obscurations and bringing you all the realizations of the entire path to enlightenment, from correctly following the virtuous friend up to Buddhahood. It also purifies the specific obscurations and grants the specific realizations related to the particular verse you are contemplating. Okay. So for each of the 8 verses, we'll pause and meditate. Determined to obtain the greatest possible benefit from all sentient beings who are more precious than a wish-fulfilling jewel, I hold them most dear at all times. So you can contemplate the meaning of the verse, unpack the meaning, and these verses, see the difference between the 2016 version till now is in the earlier version, it would say, I shall hold them most dear at all times. So it was more like an aspiration, but this is like, saying we're doing it now, not waiting for some future time, but even now we hold the sentient beings most dear. Then we do the visualization. The blissful white nectar purifies all obscurations, especially the self-cherishing thought that prevents you from holding others most dear, and brings all the realization, especially loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, which holds others most dear. So we'll pause and meditate. Wherever I am and whoever I am with, I always consider myself the lowest of all, and from the depths of my heart, hold others dear and supreme. So again, contemplating the verse and then doing the visualization of the nectar purifying all obscurations, and particularly the one related to this verse about holding ourselves in a manner of humility. So pause and do the visualization and meditation. In all actions, I examine my mental continuum, and the minute a delusion arises, since it endangers myself and others, I forcefully confront and avert it. Whenever I see sentient beings who are wicked in nature and overwhelmed by negative actions and heavy suffering, I hold such rare ones dear as if I had found a precious treasure. When out of envy, others mistreat me with abuse, insults, or the like, I accept defeat and offer the victory to them. When someone whom I've benefited and in whom I have great hopes gives me terrible harm, I regard them as my virtuous friend. In short, both directly and indirectly, I offer every happiness and benefit to all my mothers. I secretly take upon myself all their harms and suffering. So here we can do a short meditation on Tonglen as well, giving and taking. So depending how familiar you are with the practice, you can start with yourself, or you can do three beings, friend, enemy, stranger. So why don't we just do like that? In any case, visualize from the heart of sentient beings, however many you want to include now. Think that all their suffering, all the causes of suffering, all their sickness, all their negative karma, all their obscurations, disturbing thoughts, so forth. Think it collects within their chest cavities, and then as we inhale, think that we're inhaling it through the right nostril. And at our own heart, we visualize our self-cherishing mind, our selfish, self-centered mind gets completely obliterated by this. And then as we exhale, we give away our body, our possessions, our virtue, our understanding. We give this to sentient beings in the form of white light, becoming everything they need for their temporary and ultimate happiness, including enlightenment. So we can meditate like that for a couple minutes. Also, I do not defile all these practices with the stains of the superstitions of the eight worldly concerns, and by knowing all phenomena to be illusory, without trusting in them, I am freed from bondage. Okay, so the completion we make the following request. One pointedly, from the depths of your heart, great compassionate one, please extend your holy hand and lead me and all other sentient beings to your blissful, pure realm after this life. Be our virtuous friend in all our lives and quickly lead us to Buddhahood. So think that Guru Chenrezig accepts your requests and innumerable nectar beams flow into your body. All your negative karma, obscuration, disease, and spirit harms are instantly purified. Your body becomes as clear as crystal. Guru Chenrezig then melts into light and absorbs into you. Your body, speech, and mind become inseparably one with Guru Chenrezig's holy body, holy speech, and holy mind. So those of you with a previous initiation, a great initiation of Avalokiteshvara, then you can do the deity yoga of visualizing yourself in the form of Chenrezig. Otherwise, if you don't have such initiation, you can just visualize Chenrezig again in the space in front of you. Either way, from Chenrezig, right, beams of light radiate from Chenrezig's body, and each of these light rays have Guru Chenrezig on its tip. Guru Chenrezig comes to sit above the crown of each and every sentient being. Nectar beams flow down from each Guru Chenrezig's heart, purifying all the negative karmas and obscurations of each sentient being. When each sentient being is completely purified, Guru Chenrezig dissolves into each one through their crown, and then each sentient being becomes Chenrezig. So concentrate on that visualization as you recite the mantra as many times as you can. So maybe we can chant a few together, and then we can do more silent recitation so we can get more numbers. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum, Mani padme, mani padme, mani padme, mani padme. Om Mani Padme Hum. Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. So now to end, just rest in the awareness that just as we visualized, all sentient beings are completely purified of all their obscurations, all their suffering and causes of suffering, all their disease, negative karmas, and think that they have achieved the state of Avalokiteshvara's enlightenment. Okay. Um, okay, we can do this dedication just to wrap it up, and then yeah, continue with the rest of the time we have. So due to all the past, present, future merits collected by me, all the merits of the 3 times collected by numberless Buddhas and numberless sentient beings, may bodhicitta be generated in the hearts of all the sentient beings of the 6 realms, and especially in the hearts of everybody in this world, including all the students, benefactors, and volunteers in the FPMT organization, may be generated in the hearts of all those who rely upon me, all those for whom I have promised to pray, and all those whose names have been given to me. May it be generated in my heart and in the hearts of all my family members, those who are living and those who have died. May the bodhicitta that has already been generated increase. Whatever suffering transmigratory beings experience, may it all ripen on me. Whatever happiness and virtue I accumulate, may it ripen on others. May I never be discouraged, even for a moment, from practicing the deeds of the bodhisattvas for the sake of others, by completely renouncing anything done for my own sake and by engaging in the holy actions of the kind founder, Guru Shakyamuni Buddha. Due to all the past, present, future merits collected by me, all the merits of the 3 times collected by numberless Buddhas and numberless sentient beings, which are completely empty of existing from their own side, may I, who am completely empty of existing from my own side, achieve the state of great compassionate one, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side to the state of compassionate, great compassionate one, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, by myself alone, who am completely empty of existing from my own side. Okay. So, um, mm, so why don't we now continue with the 7-point mind training. Okay. So I think we went through these, the 5 powers, right? Okay, here we go. I think this is where we are. Okay. So the criteria of having trained the mind, again, these verses in italics, that's the root text. And then Pabonka Rinpoche is giving commentary. So all Dharma comes within one thought. So yeah, maybe no time to go through Pabonka's, all of Pabonka's words there. But yeah, basically all of the teachings of Buddha here is said, all of which boil down to being antidotes to self-cherishing. So more generally, antidotes to the afflictions. The Buddha wants all sentient beings to achieve both liberation and enlightenment. And so, yeah, here, this is a point that actually comes up in recent years. So here, Pabonka Rinpoche says the fine dividing line between what is Dharma and what is not is said to be whether a thing is an antidote to delusion. So in recent years, Lama Zopa Rinpoche had been kind of debating this point, whether one can say, okay, let's give the context. So, there's that saying that if one has attachment to this life, one is not a Dharma practitioner, right? And that's in the four, parting from the four attachments, a text that's in the Sakya tradition. And then in the sort of Lamrim context, then when they talk about the small scope practitioner, in general, even one who is sort of after the happiness of this life is included in the small scope. But in the Lamrim context, they talk about the kind of special small scope practitioner who is prioritizing the happiness and well-being of future lives more than this life. So in certain contexts, that's the kind of the bar, setting the bar for a Dharma practitioner, prioritizing future lives over this life. So Rinpoche would then, he was debating us and saying, well, say someone who doesn't believe in future lives, but, maybe someone like working for Doctors Without Borders or something, are they then not practicing Dharma? Someone, they actually, there's one, a couple, actually, they're from Berkeley, and they kind of left they're both doctors, and they left their medicinal practice in Berkeley to come to SETA, and they're volunteering at the clinic here. Anyway, they were Dharma practitioners, but you can imagine, someone without a belief in past and future lives, they come out to volunteer. Is it Dharma or not? So if it is Dharma, well, do they have thoughts that extend beyond this life? No, because they don't believe in future lives. Anyway, it's something to think about. So I was with one monk. We were at Kopan, and this monk I was with, he was taking the position, the kind of hardline position that no, it's not Dharma. Rinpoche then was debating the other side, saying, well, Aren't they doing it out of compassion? And so all the volunteering, helping the sick and so forth, they're not doing it out of a desire for fame, wealth, but they have pure compassion. So anyway, in that context, Rinpoche cited this statement: whether a thing is dharma is whether it is an antidote to delusion. So in any case, something to keep in mind. For us, it's important. You see, the best sign of accomplishment is how much you have reduced your delusions. So especially a lot of the practices we do, it is very subtle. It's very hard to see on a day-to-day basis. Kind of like, for example, if you start exercising or go on a diet, you can't see one day to another if you're losing weight. But after some time, then you get on the scale and you say, oh, I've actually lost 5 pounds. Or in the other side of it, day by day, we don't see ourselves getting older. But then when we see a picture of us from like 10 years ago, we're like, oh my, So yeah, we can look in our own minds and see, have we reduced our delusions? Have we reduced our self-centeredness? Which then leads us into the next point: uphold the chief of the two witnesses. So here, the witness of yourself and others. So this happens a lot, right? People might praise you, have all sorts of projections about you in a good way. So projections can also be good, they can be bad. But here, of the two witnesses, yourself and others, then yourself, that's the main witness, right? And we can know, no matter what others might be praising us, that they think we're so good, we know what our mind is like. And so even if everyone is, telling us we're the best in the world, or if everyone tells us we're the worst in the world, the truth is independent of what people are saying, right? So we have to, be our own witness. And then here in the commentary, there's this analogy of the 4 mangoes. This is actually from one of Nagarjuna's texts, but it's starting to be mango season here in India. Came back right in time. So they have mangoes that are ripe and mangoes that look ripe. So you can have 4 possibilities: that are ripe and look ripe, that look ripe but aren't ripe, that don't look ripe but are ripe, and they're not ripe and they don't look ripe. Okay. So here, the best for us is to be ripe and to look ripe, right? Now, when we encounter other people, we should keep in mind that there are some that are ripe inside, but don't look ripe. So this, when we encounter unruly or, misbehaving beings, then it can be good to think, oh, maybe, how they're appearing isn't actually a true reflection of their mental state. And that can help us be patient. But for us, then it's also good to show the outward appearance of being kind-hearted and all that. Now, if it is just a show and inside is not right, then it's becoming quite deceptive. Okay. Always cultivate mental happiness. So this is the point, right? The point of our practice is to be happy. And so, as it says in Lama Chupa, right, whatever we experience, whatever circumstances, be they good or bad, may I always use them as a path to increase the two bodhicittas and thus solely remain in a state of mental joy, right? So the other statement I say many times, that everyone looks like a good Dharma practitioner when the sun is shining and their belly's full, right? So when things are going well, we can look like we're practicing good Dharma. We can be very compassionate, but it's especially in these times when there are obstacles, when there's problems, then we have to cultivate the mental happiness. And the essence, how we've done that, is to be able to think of our suffering in another way, to think of it, as being meaningful, as being a condition that spurs us along the path to enlightenment. And therefore, although we might be physically suffering, we can cultivate the mental happiness coming from a deep appreciation that what we're doing is directed toward all sentient beings. What we're doing is fulfilling our guru's wishes. What we're doing is helping us progress along the path to enlightenment. Okay. So the criteria of having trained your mind is as follows. You have mastered it if you are capable while distracted. So, yeah, any habit we're trying to do, then at first we have to be very concentrated. And then, like when we are in the comfort of our own cushion, we can develop a mind of bodhicitta with great effort. But then when we go off into the real world, that's the real testing ground. So even when we're distracted, then if we can maintain these virtuous thoughts, especially bodhicitta, great compassion, then we know we have mastered it. Then this, maybe it should be in italics. The criterion for having been trained is when you have reversed it. So here, what do we have to reverse? Right now, we are primarily operating under the mind of self-centeredness, self-cherishing. And so we ignore sentient beings. So reversing it means then to ignore ourselves and our own interest and instead work solely for the benefit of others. You will have the 5 great signs of mastery. Then here, the great ascetic, you're able to be patient, great personage because you cherish others more than yourself, great practitioner of virtue. Oh, I think I've gone through these last time. Because in all your activities, you'll never depart from the practices of the 10 types of dharmic behavior. So those, yeah, I think I went over those at another time. And then a great upholder of the Vinaya. Vinaya is the monastic discipline because you remain calm, composed, and untarnished by the least sin or non-virtue. So in this context, I just wanted to mention something. So, you know, the great yogi Milarepa, the Tibetan yogi and saint Milarepa, who was famous for achieving enlightenment in one lifetime. You also hear his story because of how he devoted to his guru Marpa. So anyway, you know, he, as you know, from the trials and tribulations he did, following Marpa's advice, he built the tower 3 times. He would build a 7-story tower and then dismantle it and so forth, as a way of purifying his mind, offering service to the guru. Anyway, he didn't study the kind of traditional way. And so after he was enlightened and sort of became this little bit famous traveling yogi, then some of the geshes, some of the Tibetans who had done the traditional studies would come and want to debate with him. And so there was one geshe, or maybe a couple, who came to him and said, "Oh, can you tell us about Vinaya?" And so Milarepa said, "Oh, I don't know anything about Vinaya, but I know when my mind is free of afflictions, I keep all my vows purely." Okay, so that's the essence, right? I think you know, I'm in the 3rd year of the Vinaya studies, and you know, we have 253 vows, and you know, we go into all this detail. So knowing all these kind of fine differentiation, yeah, it's important on one level. But in terms of keeping your vows, if you don't have afflictions, then you'll keep your vows, right? That was Milarepa's point. You'll be a great yogi because you practice the real Mahayana path. So here, the 18 commitments of mind training. So always keep to the 3 general points. First of these is never to transgress the principles of mind training. Do not use mind training as a pretext for ignoring more basic vows, such as those in Vinaya. So this is more for the monastics, but in general, you know, some of you might even have lay vows where, yeah, you could think that now you are doing mind training, which is like a higher Mahayana. And so the more basic vows of the Pratimoksha, the individual liberation vows, somehow no longer apply to you. So don't do that. Second, don't let your mind become a mere travesty. So don't use mind training as a pretext from not refraining from upsetting creatures and humans by cutting down sacred trees and so on, because you pretend to have normal self-cherishing. And then also don't let your mind training become partial. That means, you know, playing favorites. Here you see this a lot. Change your aspirations, but preserve your old manner. So that means change your mind. But that's the main essence of the practice. But in terms of your kind of outward appearance, don't be make a show of it, right? So sometimes you'll see people like this. You know, they'll like have a big mala around their neck. They might have all sorts of, you know, several malas, all kinds of crystals, maybe some tattoos of, you know, Sanskrit or Tibetan mantras. And yeah, who knows? Who knows? But you see, the Bodhisattva practice is very, it's an inner kind of practice, right? And so it can be this way, right? When you make a show out of things, you're attracting attention, and then attracting attention can attract obstacles. So it should be the case, as we talked about in the context of the mangoes, that people think you're a really nice person, very caring, but they might not know, or they don't necessarily have to know, that you're Buddhist or practicing Tibetan Buddhism or anything like this, right? That can be a little bit hidden. Yeah. Do not mention others' withered limbs. So that is, do not speak about others' defects. Do not think of others at all. So this has special context, right? So here, the commentary. That is, you should analyze your own faults and not look into the faults of others. Okay. So don't think of others at all means don't look for their faults. And especially, I'm not sure if it's here in another precept, but in the 37 practices of bodhisattvas, it says especially not to speak of the faults of others. So, yeah, it's important. Purify the greatest delusion first. So whichever delusion is the largest, then you take that on first. Abandon all hopes of result, and that means you don't think you're doing this practice for some worldly gain, or even liberation or enlightenment. You're just doing this practice because, well, it's benefiting sentient beings. Abandon food with poison in it. So food here is virtue, and so poison will be the self-cherishing mind. And then, to think, to keep our practice very pure, not even a tinge of self-cherishing mind. So here, treat it unfairly means this is like in the second verse of the eight verses of mind training. The second a delusion arises, apply an antidote right away. So then the four dharmas to be performed by practitioners of virtue, okay? For example, not repaying an evil action with an evil action. So these four dharmas, so those who strike you, you don't strike them back. Those who criticize you, you don't criticize them back. Those who do an evil action to you, you don't do an evil action back. Like that. What's the fourth one? Strike, criticize. Maybe, yeah, harm. Other kinds of harm. Anyway, it all falls under this umbrella of not repaying an evil action with an evil action. Okay? So then waiting in ambush means, waiting to get some revenge, and then waiting for the perfect time to do that. And then attacking their weak spot. Maybe we know some fault of others, and then we bring it up. Do not put the load of a z or a zo on an ox. So a zo is it's half yak and half ox. So these are in Tibet, right? Anyway, when you do something wrong, do not deceitfully blame someone else. That's the point. And then spell has gone awry. That means, our mind training is supposed to be subduing our self-cherishing, but if we do it with worldly concern, then the spell has gone awry. And then do not run a race means, trying to get something good for yourself. And then do not let the God become a devil means don't let our practice of mind training bolster the self-cherishing. So do not think, if only my enemy would die or suffer ruin, then I would be happy. So this is seeking happiness in unhappiness. So those are the 18 commitments. Then we have the 22 pieces of advice. All yogas are practiced through the one. So the one practice is the Tonglen, equalizing, exchanging self and others. This is where it is. Looking like a practitioner when your belly is full and the sun is shining, and an ordinary type as soon as things go wrong. Yeah. So the text continues, don't misunderstand. Here there's 6. Mistaken patience. This is being tolerant of problems met while doing something worldly, but having no courage to face difficulties encountered in Dharma practice. So this we had mentioned before, for our work or for, going to late night parties and whatnot. We have a lot of tolerance, but when we encounter difficulties in our Dharma practice, then that evaporates. Mistaken taste. You have to taste the Dharma through study, contemplation, meditation. Means we need to persevere so that we get the deep understanding. But instead of doing that, when we instead place our kind of time in studying about contemplating and coming to understand worldly affairs, then this is tasting the wrong thing. Mistaken compassion. This is not meditating on compassion for those who sin, yet having compassion for those who undergo difficulties for the sake of Dharma. So one of my friend's aunt, I met her the first year I was ordained. She's actually Indian. So my friend was Indian, but they grew up in the States. And the aunt is also living in the States. And so when she heard of me living in rural India, eating rice and dal every day, she actually was like, oh, she had a lot of compassion for me. So I don't know if this was mistaken compassion. But maybe, yeah, right? I was undergoing difficulties for the sake of Dharma, right? So anyway, I remember she cooked me some enchiladas. She cooked me Mexican food. And she wanted me to eat more and more, Anyway, when I, now come back to California, I always like to have Mexican food because I'll say this, although in Bangalore, you can find good food of many, many kinds, good Italian food, good Indian food, of course, Japanese food, Vietnamese, Thai, but Mexican food, very tough. Doesn't compare. Okay. All right. Anyway, mistaken aspiration is not wishing to practice pure Dharma, but aspiring to worldly happiness, power, and wealth. Mistaken yearnings, encouraging the people you trust in not to practice Dharma, but encouraging them instead to study business law, etc. Mistaken rejoicing is not rejoicing in your own or others' virtue or in others' happiness. Mistaken rejoicing is to rejoice when your enemies suffer. Okay. This is a story that comes up. There's one monk who rejoiced when his rival broke a major vow, and Geshe-Potala heard of this and said, the one who did the rejoicing committed a greater sin than the one who broke the vow. Okay. So this is a very important advice you see many different contexts, but look far ahead, be farsighted, and keep in tune. You'll see that translated a little bit differently, but anyway, look far ahead. So we have our goal as enlightenment. It's a big undertaking. So we have to have this kind of recognition and appreciation that what we're doing is difficult and it's going to take a long time, probably. And so being farsighted then will help us. We have to kind of sustain that effort for a long period of time and not become impatient, saying that, oh, I've practiced for 10 years or 20 years and I haven't, realized emptiness. I'm not enlightened yet. So we should have the courage that, however long it's going to take, that we're willing to sustain that effort, life after life, eon after eon. Then keep in tune. Sometimes Rinpoche had translated that as like, don't squeeze yourself. So when we have kind of unrealistic expectations on ourselves, then squeezing ourselves means that we, can burn out very easily. And we think, oh, maybe we can sustain practice very hard for a short amount of time. But then when we squeeze ourselves and don't get the realization in a short amount of time, we can sort of lose faith in the practice. So don't do that. So let's see, maybe these are the rest. The text says, train with determination. Yeah, we have to have the courage that is able to sustain our practice. Okay. Train yourself thoroughly through analytic meditation on mind training by means of both conceptualization and analysis. Apply the antidote to whatever delusion you deem greatest, that we said before. Working for the sake of sending beings is only right and something you have already promised to do. Do not make a big deal of it to anyone. That's important. Suppose someone belittles you in front of others, do not get angry and so on. That is, do not be spiteful. Do not be as changeable as spring weather, changing from happiness to sadness for the slightest reason. Do not offer your help in the hopes of receiving praise and so forth. This completes the advice. If you follow it, you'll be able to convert unfavorable circumstance into the path to enlightenment, despite the fact that the 5 degenerations, the degeneration and lifespan and so forth, are commonplace. This lineage of instruction comes from Suvarnadipa, that's Sir Lingpa, that's Atisha's guru. It delighted Chekawa, who said he could now die with no regrets. So at the end of the root text by Chekawa, he said that, yeah, he could die without regrets. So that's that. So we have a few minutes left. Are there any questions?
I have a question about don't put the load of a zoe on an ox. I don't, I just lost the page. Yeah, it says before that, when you do something wrong, do not deceitfully blame someone else, and don't be clever and blame others when things go wrong. I don't understand how that relates to putting the load of a zoe on an ox. I always thought load of a zoe on an ox is because an ox is not as strong as a zoe. But that doesn't, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I don't know actually the relative strength between those two animals, but the greater point, right? Blaming someone else. So maybe, you know, let's, even if we're not talking about stronger or weaker, maybe there are, you know, the ox will sort of pull the plow, and the zoe will carry the sacks of sampa, whatever it is, right? So anyway, they have their kind of individual purposes, and it means like don't mix, right? So blaming others, right? So something that you deserve blame for, you're the zoe, and so don't put that blame on someone else. That's the point. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking it's like don't expect things from people that they can't when, but it's not related to that.
Yeah. So yeah. Or it could be like this, right? So yeah, let's say the zoe is stronger than the ox, right? So don't put the load of a zoe on an ox. So the zoe is stronger. So then the ox can't carry the same amount of weight, right? Anyway, the commentary is clear whether or not the analogy is don't blame others for your own faults. Yeah.
Shanti, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, Venerable, I have two questions.
Mm.
One is here, great compassion is not is seen as same as altruism. Is it like that always? Like great compassion is like not taking responsibility, but wanting everyone to be without suffering. I'm just saying because very often they praise great compassion. Do they mean altruism or is it different?
Yeah. Okay. So what do you mean by altruism?
No, I'm saying what the way it's used here is that not only does one have the wish for every sentient being to be without suffering, and have happiness, but also one takes responsibility for it.
Okay. Right. So this is a point of debate. So let's set the context. And Shanti, you should have set a better context for the question, right? So then when you're talking about the 7-point cause and effect instructions, we're talking about number 5, right? Compassion. And then number 6, altruism, right? Sometimes translated as the extraordinary aspiration, right? So now you're saying the essence of your question is, in the 7-point cause and effect instructions, is number 5 great compassion? Is number 6 then something more? Or how do those relate? Right? Okay. So number 6 in the 7-point cause and effect instructions is the one that takes on responsibility for freeing sentient beings from their suffering. That is distinguished between, that and number 5, which just has that, may they be free from suffering. But then the question comes up, because in Lamrim Chenmo, in the discussion of number 5, yeah, it seems that Lama Tsongkhapa, he's quoting Chandrakirti, where Chandrakirti praises great compassion at the beginning of Madhyamika Avatara, because, as we said, that Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas are born from Buddhas, Buddhas are born from Bodhisattvas, Bodhisattvas are born from compassion. Therefore, I praise great compassion, right? So anyway, in that context, it seems that number 5, because in the outlines of Lamrim Chenmo, it says that it talks about the importance of compassion in the beginning, middle, and end. And then it says that how everything comes from it, right? I forget the exact words of the outlines. Anyway, the point is, in that context, it seems that what Chandrakirti is praising at the beginning of Madhyamika Avatara is great compassion. But then the question comes, does that, the number 5, does that exist in the continuum of Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas?
It's
Does it?
related to immeasurable compassion, but I think it does not exist because the Shravakas, they don't consider every sentient being, something like that.
Well, no. They would consider every sentient being. If they have immeasurable compassion, that would consider every sentient being, right? But they don't have the response, they don't take the responsibility. Okay. Anyway, we're a little bit out of time. So I've teed it up for you to be able to ask this question in a better way in the future. Then you have to look in the, especially look in the Lamrim Chenmo and see the context where Lama Tsongkhapa is talking about the importance of compassion at the beginning, middle, and end. And then look in the explanation on number 5. It seems it could be that then when you look at Lama Tsongkhapa's text, the illumination of the thought, it looks at, which is the commentary on Chandrakirti's supplement to the Middle Way. in the context of the introductory verses, it seems like Lama Tsongkhapa is very clear that the great compassion that is talked about is what's called, Kyop Dögi Ninje. It's the wish to protect others from their suffering or to liberate them from their suffering. That's the one that's taking responsibility. And the other one is Drel Dögi Ninje, wishing that they are, a mere wish that they're free of suffering. So in that context, it seems clear, or at least the words very much suggest that great compassion is the one that takes on responsibility. In which case, number 5 in the 7-point cause and effect instructions is not great compassion. But that requires further analysis. You're studying illumination of the thought, right? So look at those two. You got it? Lamrim Chenmo, that section, and then illumination of the thought, the beginning.
One more question, Venerable. The 5
Yes.
powers mentioned here, are they mentioned in any other context, or they're specific to this 7 points of mind training?
Huh.
No, there are 5 powers in the 37 points, right? But it's different. But is there any other place these 5 powers are mentioned?
Well, I mean, they're referred to in many texts. I mean, of course, the Lama Chupa, it does have the mention of it, but Lama Chupa combines, it's in the end where it has the whole Lamrim and Lojong text. So, yeah, I don't know.
I think there's similar
They're-
5
yeah.
powers at the time of death, 5 powers to practice at the time of death.
Yes. No, but I think, Shanti, was your question like, are they talked about in texts other than Lojong texts?
Yes, Venerable. Other than those referring to the 7-point mind training.
Oh,
Maybe in other Lojong texts.
yeah, in other Lojong texts, for sure. They're probably, yeah. 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 Okay. Well, our time is up. So we had done a dedication at the end of the practice, so we can do just a brief one here. So dedicating that all our virtue, as well as all the virtue accumulated in 3 times by ourselves, as well as the number of sinning beings. Yeah, due to that, may all sinning beings generate the 2 kinds of bodhicitta in their mind streams as quickly as possible, and that those 2 kinds of bodhicitta that has already been generated increase. We also dedicate for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and that he can swiftly take a form where we can receive teachings and guidance from him. We also dedicate that we and all the various students of Rinpoche can fulfill all of his holy wishes, all the practice and advice that we've received. May we be able to do that without obstacle. And then also dedicating for all the virtuous friends who still we can see and interact with, particularly His Holiness the Dalai Lama and all of these virtuous friends, have a long and stable life and continue to benefit sentient beings through their teaching and guidance. Then all the proximate causes for suffering in the world, including all the war, all the environmental degradation, all the illness, natural disasters, and so forth, may all these be pacified. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Venerable Namjang.
Thank you, Venerable Namjang.
Thank you, Venerable.
Okay. So we'll see you some other time. We'll be sending out a kind of self-assessment, and yeah, we can do kind of interview kind of thing, right?
Yes.
All right, we'll let you know about that.